Hey, everybody. So I've got a question for you, and I got Alana hanging out with us today. We always have good feedback when she's here, but let me kick us off with this. If I give you the word masculine, what comes to mind? So maybe you're happy with your masculine self. Maybe you never even thought about it before. Maybe the version that you have right now hasn't worked very well for you. So we're going to unpack what is masculinity. And Alana doesn't actually know what we're talking about today. So I didn't prep her for this, but I thought it would be really cool to see a part of this dialogue. And we've worked together obviously so much that it's always creates for a fun conversation. So anyway, just think about for a second for you when it comes to masculinity, what comes up for you, and we'll get into it. Welcome to Beyond the Facade podcast. I'm your host, Luke Gordon, and I'm thrilled to have you join me in this space today. What we're going to be doing is diving deep into the trials and triumphs and truths of seeking authenticity. Becoming your true self isn't about a single action or moment. It's a relentless pursuit, a commitment to self that reveals the rich connection and meaning that our life has to offer. So whether this is your first time tuning in or you're a regular listener, know this: what you're building here goes beyond a conversation. You're here to challenge, to change, and to celebrate the incredible journey of becoming your authentic self. Because when you dare to show up fully, the rewards are immeasurable. So welcome to Beyond the Facade. Let's get started. Alana, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited that you're here. And I love the conversations and dialogue we've had around masculinity and just in general. So let's start off with this in this place. So I feel like when it comes to masculinity, there's been this piece of, and we'll pull it into groups, which is I'll ask guys like, hey, what comes up for you when you think about masculine? And they'll kind of give me like a little bit of sideways look like, wait, why are we talking about this? Are we going through here? And we'll talk about what were you taught about? What is it to be a man? And they'll start saying things like, I don't know, like be tough, don't cry. And I like, who taught you how to be a man? And what did they teach you about being a man? It's really around like tough. It's like pretty quickly turns into a conversation of feelings don't matter. And then we start to get in some really powerful things like, what does it define to be a man, to be really masculine? The conversation turns into, obviously, it's a money thing, it's a sex thing, as far as who's attracted to me, what do people think about me? And I got to tell you, those experiences totally aligned to me. I remember so much of my journey being about when other men look at me, what will they see? And will they think that I have value based upon what I have? So, along, we're going to go a couple different directions with this, but the question I have for you is maybe what would partners say about masculinity? We know what men are talking about with it. How do partners see masculinity?
So, yeah, Luke did not prep me for this, and we actually planned it this way. It's really fun to have these organic conversations. But whoa, like you just threw me to the wall.
I know. I did. I did. How would
Come
not
on,
forget?
Luke. No, this is good. This is such a good topic. And there's a lot of heated feelings around this. And my brain is going to betrayed partners could go a lot of different directions. I can see them looking at masculinity playing into part of the reason why they have been hurt or why they're hurt. I can also see them desperately wanting a strong, masculine, confident husband or partner, but not a toxic one. And so, if I can just get on my little soapbox for a second and just talk about really quick the difference between masculinity and toxic masculinity, because we hear a lot of this term of toxic masculinity. And a lot of times I see people make the mistake where they throw then that we're saying all masculinity is toxic. And that's not the case whatsoever. I use the analogy of with a cheeseburger. I love to eat cheeseburgers and I like hamburgers, and you can put a lot of different things on my burger. I like burgers. I don't like cheeseburgers with rat poison. In
You
fact, like rat poison,
wait. Well, hold on. Hold the phone. You don't like cheeseburgers, the rat poison?
I don't. No, I do not ever order rat poison on my burgers. I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to ingest it. And so I won't do that. It's toxic for me. And so am I saying all cheeseburgers are bad? Absolutely not. I love cheeseburgers. I don't like cheeseburgers with poison or toxicity. And so when we say the term toxic masculinity, it means taking masculinity, those parts that embed, is that the word I'm looking for? Encompass masculinity, and it's added toxic components into it. And so you just listed off a ton where masculinity of my value and worth is only what I have to offer as a man, or that I have to have those other people's validation, or this power indifference that I am more special or entitled because I'm a man. I can't feel feelings. All of those things would be those toxic parts.
Can I highlight just a couple more there now that we're defining it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just that part, like emotional suppression. I can't feel, I got to push that stuff down. I can't feel those raw feelings, especially in front of people. That aggression is strength, right? That
Yeah.
my aggressive side of me actually, that means that's strong. Ones that we'll get into is that like the how I see women, which is that objectification piece, that they're a tool and their devaluation of it, right?
Or that they're weak, or that they can't do things without me, or
Yeah, not capable without me. Like they need me, right? They're not gonna be okay without me. Yeah. And then there was another one which we won't get too much into. That my status comes with my ability to control somebody. Like control has everything to do with how masculine I am. The more control I have, the more masculine I am.
and I'll just tell you, when we do the SDMI, the sexual dependency inventory, you will see some of these patterns come up through that assessment. And you'll see these ways that sexual addiction can play heavily into toxic masculinity, and toxic masculinity can play heavily into sexual compulsivity. And so I think it's good to just slow down and define that. And as we talk about this, it's one of those topics that can really ruffle people's feathers, because it can feel like, for a man, it can feel like you're being attacked. And this is where I just want to start this foundation of masculinity is a really beautiful thing. So is femininity. And men and women have masculinity and femininity alike within them. Everybody has both. But to what levels and how that's used, that's individual. But we're talking about the parts that have become corrupt, the parts that have become toxic. And ideally, as you're on your healing journey, you can figure out how to take those toxic parts out so you can enjoy your cheeseburger, and that your partner can enjoy those strong parts of you in its purity.
Well, and there's something you made me think of, which is early on in the journey, and I've heard many men say this is like, man, I think those women's groups are like man haters clubs. And I think what I've noticed is they start to become aware of what toxic masculinity is, and they start to hate the toxic part of the masculinity. And start to, and Alana, correct me if I'm wrong, but they start to notice and start to be able to call out the unhealthy versions of masculinity. And there's those strong feelings towards it. So they don't hate the man as much as they do the harmful underneath pieces of it. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because in any groups I've ever done or been in, we don't really use it through this lens of masculinity. And so I don't know that they're like consciously pinpointing toxic masculinity. I
Mhm.
think what they're pinpointing is unhealthy behaviors. And when you start recognizing patterns or behaviors that are problematic, then there's less tolerance for them. So if you've been eating in the cheeseburger and there's just these micro doses of rat poison, and you know you feel sick, but you really don't know why. Well, as soon as somebody points out, "Hey, every one of those little white dots is microdoses of rat poison," you're not going to eat the rat poison. You're going to be like, no, I'm done. And so that's what I see is I see the more that individuals become aware, and I'll say women, betrayed partners, become aware of these patterns and these toxic parts, the less willing they are to consume them.
Yeah. Okay. I got a question for you, unless you had any other thoughts on that.
Yeah.
So the question I have for you, if you think about reflecting on the men that you've observed in recovery, the men that you work with, how do you notice that toxic masculinity has it affected them? Like how does it affect them? How has it impacted them and the people that they love?
That's a good question. I think it hurts everybody. I think it hurts the men and the people they love equally, because what it does is it builds barriers instead of bridges. And so it creates these power differences. It creates false narratives. For men, it doesn't allow them to have that deeper level of intimacy that they want. And so they can go looking for it in all the wrong places. And so, yeah, I definitely see that it hurts both. And then when it comes to feeling the feelings or lack thereof, and that the only feeling that you're allowed to feel is anger, you can't be a whole person with that. And so, with that deep suppression of all of those emotions, it has to come out somewhere and somehow. So that's where it comes out sideways or comes out through depression or addiction or some other way that it comes out. And so that's hurting you and is hurting the people you love.
Have you noticed it shows up in relationships?
Relationships, I would say the barriers that you can't have that deeper level of connection and intimacy, the objectification. And I see objectification happen. Sometimes we think of objectification only that happens of somebody like out in the world scanning, but I see that happen between partners too. You can have objectification happen anywhere when you're seeing somebody as an object instead of the whole who they are, something to be used, someone there just to take care of you or benefit you in some way. You can't have close connected relationships. And that leaves that hole, it leaves that hollowness that we try to then go look and figure out a way to fill it.
Yeah, and I just think about that watching somebody feel like that there is a role that somebody is supposed to play in that relationship, and if they don't play that role, that's not okay, and that's not fair, that's not right, and that has a lot to do with toxic masculinity, is that role-based, "You're here to do this job, and if you're not, that's there a level of entitlement around that."
Well, and I feel like we could do a whole episode on just entitlement, but entitlement does stem out of that toxic masculinity. Entitlement can actually stem out of a lot of places, but specifically, toxic masculinity can breed that entitlement. And entitlement is so poisonous to the individual and it's poisonous to relationships. And you're left always feeling unfulfilled.
Yeah. We're gonna take a quick break for a moment. I wanna let you know of some things that we have coming up at Choose Your Recovery Services. I'm very excited to tell you about the Unmasked Intensive we have coming up in May. It's May 13th through the 16th in Spanish Fork, Utah. The name of the intensive is Unmasked Paths to Authentic Masculinity. Let me tell you some of the things we're going to accomplish. We're going to explore some root causes, like at the end of the day, what's underneath this behavior? What's the why behind it? What's the insights into understanding why my behavior existed, the one that kept me in secrecy and hiding? We're going to embrace vulnerability. So we're going to confront a lot of the struggles of that non-judgmental space so you can foster more authentic connections with the people that you love. We're going to realign with your values. We're going to learn new coping strategies, and we're going to forge some authentic connection. We're going to build a lot of camaraderie to hear that happens. I wanted to share with you what previous participants have said about this transformation. So here's what one guy said. I'm just going to read it to you. I loved the connection with those around me. It was eye-opening to learn how to open up and show love for myself and be okay with what's going on inside of me, no matter how hard or ugly I may see it. I specifically remember this man saying this and just being astounded by like, wow, from around people that really open up, what can I explore and learn about myself in this intensive? He found it to be really eye-opening. So anyway, for more information and reserve your spot, go ahead and visit our website and we'll provide some information for you. And then take the time to invest in yourself so you can start to lean in a more authentic way in your life. Looking forward to seeing you there. Let's get back to our episode. Okay, so if we think about the key traits of toxic masculinity being like emotional suppression, aggression, showing strength, control, those pieces, what does that healthier version look like? So what do you notice, Alana, with men making that transition? What's that awkward? I think of like teenager years. If my strength doesn't come from here, from me being like in charge and control, emotionally suppressed, like the evolution of something different into a new form of strength, what do you notice that transition looking like?
Well, for those who are watching on YouTube, they're probably watching some of my facial expressions. I see a pendulum swing is what I typically see. And so for someone who's really trying to curb this behavior, I see them going from one side and then swinging really far to the other side where they almost become a doormat. And it's a lack
Mm.
of self and just tell me what to be. I'll do whatever you want. No thought, no opinion. It's, oh, what's Hope Ray's term? The floating saint.
Yeah, the floating saint, so good.
Will you explain that really quick?
Yeah, yeah. Let me see if I can get it to you really quick. Just she talks about how you go from that pendulum swinging to, okay, I'm going to be whoever somebody else wants me to be, and I'm gonna come across as just giving other people what they want, but it's still that need for acceptance. It's still that need to be for somebody to be seen by the world and by my partner, but there's no integrity in that. There's no character in that. There's no foundation in that. So they
Well,
just float away to be whoever somebody else wants them to be.
yeah, it's still a form. It's still not authentic. It's still not real. But I see that pendulum swing, and then I can see that kind of swinging back and forth as they try to figure out what's healthy. And hopefully you get to this nice middle ground where you are being able to have a backbone and stand on your own 2 feet and live in your values, but do it in a way that's not toxic. It's not trampling on other people. And so it makes me think of on the road to recovery, we talk about that there's four main components that men really need to learn how to do to create safety and help their relationship heal.
Mm.
And I would say even help their relationship heal with themselves. Even for
Absolutely.
yeah, even for these guys who aren't actively in a relationship, this still needs to happen internally, which is, oh shoot, let's see if I can remember 'em. Humility.
Hard to get all four of them.
Okay, humility, vulnerability. What's it called? It starts with a T.
Transparency,
Transparency. What's the other one?
empathy.
Oh, of course, empathy, right? And so you look at those four things, and those four things require you to be aligned with yourself and be value based. And those things are not components of toxic masculinity. You have to step out of that to step into those.
Okay. And it's funny because in my notes that you weren't prepared for because you weren't ready to talk about this today, I'd been like, okay, let's go to vulnerability because I was like, give me a, I'm thinking of a quality or a marker that exists that demonstrates healthy masculinity. And that's that vulnerable part. You don't, it's true act of strength is the willingness of vulnerability with somebody. The fact that they trust themselves enough and that they don't need somebody else to give them the power to be able to be seen by other people and be able to be seen seeing other people. So I wrote down vulnerability, so I'm glad you're bringing that back up.
Well, in vulnerability over time, I'll just speak for me. I was taught to be vulnerable was to be weak. And even like in that, I remember having a session with a client. And he's like, Alana, it is. Think about it. You're literally making yourself vulnerable where people could hurt you. There's weakness in that. He's like, imagine the battlefield. If I took off all my armor and I'm vulnerable, then I'm going to get cut up. So therefore, vulnerability is weakness.
And that's it. So if you view your partner as the enemy, that makes a lot of sense why you perceive it that way,
Or
right?
the world.
Or the world as these people that are out here to get me, right? Because
Mhm.
the world is the enemy, because it makes sense if you have a military mindset, right? Which that kind of is the case if you're in secrecy and hiding, the world is out to get me, right? So it makes sense the vulnerability is. But when you think about intimacy, when you think about closeness, you have to kind of bring your walls down. You have to be seen in order to be intimate, be close to somebody.
Mhm.
Sorry, that I think that was a soapbox inside there somewhere.
No, and this is the type of conversation why we didn't plan it because I love this back and forth. This is when Luke and I go walking on the trail and we have conversations that usually start with, I don't even know where we start,
Well,
a
well,
random thing. And then we get on this and we're like, it'd be cool if we could record this because there's cool concepts in here That's funny. I am tooting our own horns. But
You guys would all want to listen to this if you hear this. Yeah, no, totally.
no, but I would want to have heard this.
Yeah.
I would want to hear of what does it look like? Because the reality is I wanted to be in a relationship with a strong man. I wanted to be in a relationship with a masculine man who knows his values and knows what he believes and can stand in them. But I didn't want somebody screaming and yelling at me. I didn't want a strength that was trampling me or other people, or that strength that was using to harm. I wanted that strength used when it was needed and when it was appropriate in healthy ways. And one of the strongest things that I saw happen was those times where I see people take down their walls and let themselves feel and let themselves be real. There's such a strength in that. So going back to how I saw vulnerability, I had it totally backwards.
Yeah. And I just picture like men going, you saying, I want a masculine, healthy man. And I picture guys going out there like, I don't know. I think she wants like a doormat, somebody that she can just tell what to do and just somebody that like just can admit they got it wrong, or that they got messed up thinking. So I can hear that part in the mind about, does this apply to me right now?
Well, think about that. Like it, yeah. Would a betrayed partner want somebody who's accountable, who owns their stuff? Absolutely. Does that make them a doormat that they're accountable to their choices? No. You think about like your teenager, right? If your teenager, I don't know, steals the car in the middle of the night and then you catch them and they're crying and they feel bad, like you kind of go, yeah, that's natural consequences. But if they go to this place of, oh, I'm such a piece of crap and I can never do this and I shouldn't even be able to live and I da da da, and they go to this big pity party as a parent, you're not sitting there like, oh, good, I'm glad they're having a pity party. What you would hope for is you would hope that they would go, man, I should not have done that. Wow, what did I do to get myself into the place that I justified that that was okay? Okay, what do I need to do moving forward?
Yeah.
Right? So that's not, one is a doormat and one is not. And while they can sound or look the same initially, they're actually really different energies behind it. And partners do not want doormats. They may think they want that initially when they're just like, I need to see empathy. I need to see remorse. I need to see that you actually understand that you hurt me. But long term, they're not looking for a puppy dog to follow them around and be in a victim mindset and woe is me.
I think there's just a little bit, and Alana, I'm interested to see what you think of this. But I think there's just a lot of a rebalance of power. And I say a balance of power when it comes to the what feels like a doormat, which is a partner going like, wait, hold on. You've been in hiding in secrecy. I haven't been able to make a choice. You took my power away from me. And there's that reshift. So it can feel like there's an imbalance there, but it's just a rebalance, not an imbalance. It's a rebalance.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to did you have a thought on that?
No, I was just going to say, just, yeah, a rebalancing back to a healthy state, but it will feel like they're losing power. It will feel like that they are now disempowered. And you're right, it is a rebalancing.
Rebalance of power. So if I've been in a place of secrecy and hiding, and I haven't been sharing everything with my partner, and not even yesterday, just in the past in general, and they're not healing from that yet, it's going to feel like if that power has balanced back out, it'll feel like I don't have power. It's just because it's shifted back to a place of balance, but it'll feel like powerless, and it's not true. So this vulnerability piece, I just kind of highlight. So if toxic masculinity is, to go back to it once again, if it's emotional suppression, like I don't know how to share it, I push my emotions down, I don't feel like they have value, I don't even recognize them. If there's a recognition of strength through aggression, like dominance, and it's just not necessarily like you're an angry person, but really just more of a devaluation of partner and not having her have the balance in that relationship. but there's also a control aspect. What does it look like to get back to a healthy level of masculinity if those have been in your past? And vulnerability is that piece that can really pull us through to a healthier version of masculinity. But a lot of men are like, okay, how do I do that? What does that look like? How do I get to a place of vulnerability? Because I feel like I'm sucking at it and I'm being told that I suck at it. So that is the shedding of the mask. That is the I'm gonna stop trying to people please, and I'm going to allow people to see me, and I'm gonna start to notice what's inside of me that I don't want other people to see. So if the world feels like that, like I can't, especially with your partner, feels like she can't handle the truth or she can't take parts of me or she's not going to accept me or if it's a world in general, that means it's going to lean through vulnerability to take that mask off. And I just want to talk about what that process is like. Alana, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, you're just making me think about how I don't know when you'll release this episode, but in May, when we have the intensive, the unmasked intensive, we literally spend hours and hours and hours of going in how to do this. And if you can come to the intensive, awesome. But if you can't, this does need to be a focus with your therapist of figuring out what masks you are wearing and learning how to take them off and to step into that authenticity and that vulnerability, because that truly is where freedom lies. When we are being inauthentic, when we are still in hiding, the toll that takes on our mental health, our physical health, all of our relationships, like it just spreads out like tar over everything.
Yeah. Alana, that's actually where I was going with this, which is that's a lot of work. We talk about the journey being years of healing at different phases and different levels. And we created this, Alana and I created this unmasked intensive to give about 4 to 8 months of work done in a 4 day period. So my invitation for here for men that haven't had that experience, the unmasking experience, and what we do is we explore the origins of that mask. How did it get there? Why is it there? And what do I do to shed it? And what will it feel like if I shed it? Because so many men are going through like feeling so unsuccessful in their relationships, navigating that at the source. Like going like, I don't know if I'm doing it the right way. And so we're just gonna practice a lot. We're gonna practice the what it likes like to have the mask off and where did the mask come from? And learning to value the pain associated with it. So give you a very direct invitation, which is don't just sit in a group or in a therapy session for years. Recognize that some of this healing is going to happen through interactions and face-to-face experience in the healing. So
Well, and it can happen faster than we give ourselves credit for. And nothing about it's fast. So I hate using the word faster, but I think about our intensive program has been really deliberate in what we do. And I think about with men specifically, if they come in and they do a mask, which looks at some family of origin and removing the mask, and then they go into parts work and really like diving in and getting to know your individual parts that are showing up, trying to take over and how to heal those parts. Then you move into the men's helper heal, because now you've learned where it all started and how to remove the masks. Then you learn how to tend to your parts, especially when your parts get activated and triggered.
oh man.
Then you know how to show up and hold her stuff. And when her stuff activates your parts, you know how to tend to them. And so each one builds on the next. And I know, and actually, hopefully it's okay I say this right here, Luke, because I'm so excited about it because we just released this on our podcast. But with each of those pieces in our intensive program, not everybody can afford intensives. Like I know that, I understand that. If you can make this investment, which for each one of these, as you go through, the amount is going to save you in therapy later, just even like therapeutic hours. The amount is going to save you if you ever have to, heaven forbid, go through divorce. All of the savings there. But for those of you where it's absolutely not possible, Choose Recovery Services is going to, with our intensives, offer every intensive one lottery spot where people can do a scholarship. So those of you who need the help and don't know how to get it elsewhere, that there's still opportunities for you to get the help because it's a way we want to give back to the community. And I'm just so excited about that. But see, this is where it is my soapbox because I'm so passionate about intensives because I have watched lives change in those days and people go home and be able to start doing things differently.
Yeah, you sit with the partners. You sit with the partners from the men that show up to these intensives, talk about it making a difference. Might not necessarily give those messages to their partner because they're scared it's gonna go away. But just I'm direct with you here. Y'all know this who've listened to me for a while. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it because if somebody would have sugarcoated it for me, I wouldn't be here. So I won't sugarcoat it for you. You will have to financially and time-wise invest in your recovery. There's no shortcuts. Anybody that thinks they can offer you a shortcut, like that, I wanna talk to them about it. Because this is you don't pray your way out of something you behaved your way into, which means there are no shortcuts. So anyway, today was about what is toxic masculinity? Does it exist for me? Do I emotionally suppress? Can I value my partner? Is there control in play? So we're just disrupting that. And then we're recognizing this is a vulnerability piece. This is shedding that part. And where does it come from? So Alana, I appreciate you joining us to give your perspective.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
Hi, my name is Hallie Roderick with Choose Recovery Services. And if you're a woman healing from betrayal trauma and you find yourself feeling stuck or experiencing overwhelming triggers, having a difficult time trusting yourself, or even thinking about trusting others, or having a hard time understanding what healthy boundaries are, how to hold those, I want to invite you to consider joining us at our upcoming Courage to Thrive Intensive, held on April 23rd through 26th in Spanish Fork, Utah. These intensives are one of my favorite things to be a part of because healing happens in community. There's just something different that happens when you're in person with other women who maybe your stories aren't exactly the same, but there's a mutual understanding and a safety that is created by being in a common community. So if this sounds like something that would be beneficial to you, please check the show notes, reach out to our office to get more information, and come see us in Utah on April 23rd through 26th. We'd love to have you join us.
I'd love to share with you what's upcoming, and we have something really unique coming up in June. So for those of you who are in a healing profession who is helping take care of other people, therapists, coaches especially, but even if you're a nurse working in the medical field, if you spend your time catering to everyone else and holding their pain and helping them through their hard, we have an intensive just for you. This is called Heal the Healer. And I love all my intensives, but this one holds such a special place in my heart because in Heal the Healer, it's where the healer gets to come and for a moment, set everything down and let you be taken care of. And this isn't where you're going to come do a ton of workshops and lots of learning and have to stretch your brain. It's just where you get to come relax. You get to kick your feet up and have other professionals there ready to take care of you and cater to you. We have a gorgeous lodge house resort property that's all ours that has pools and saunas and ponds and paths and trails, and it's tucked in the Wasatch Mountains. We have a gorgeous place to stay. All of your meals are included. Activities are included. There'll be time for fun if you want to participate in that, and also time for downtime and rest. And best of all, you get that connection with other strong women who are holding it all together for somebody else and who are ready to be taken care of. So invest in you. Take care of you. We would love to have you there. I would love to hang out with you, and come with us in June to Heal the Healer.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. If this is something that you connected with, I'd love to meet with you more and talk about it. So what you can do is go to chooserecoveryservices.com or check the show notes. And there what we can do is set up a quick conversation to meet. Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Facade, where we unmask the authentic self.